little plants. I'm Kristen, aka Cranberry,
I'm Megan. You already know. That's cactus.
but whatever. Today we're gonna chit chat about the fact that I'm from Massachusetts
I'm from Texas.
and they are wildly different places,
Yes.
and we're just gonna talk about I guess the differences in the two of them.
I'm from the western part of Texas, so it's northeast versus southwest. Because some people will be like, well, the Texas is the south, but when you live on the western part of Texas, it's the southwest.
I wasn't gonna do this, but show them Texas.
Yeah, I don't know
Explain.
because it's mirrored. I don't know. This is the part that goes up to Oklahoma. This is like the part with like.
I thought that was Oklahoma.
Oh, I don't know. This is the other part of Texas. This is the east part of Texas. I mean, the little pointy part is where El Paso's at.
Yeah,
So
and then that divot right there, that would be New Mexico.
Yeah. So I'm like southwest of
Almost New Mexico.
Of the United States, yes.
Yeah, but anyway, we're basically going to talk about where I grew up in Massachusetts, which is Middleborough/Taunton, and then where you grew up in Texas, which is El Paso. So just for some
stats,
so you know, population size, El Paso is 840,000. This was from 2 years ago.
Yeah. 840.
Taunton is 57,000. And Middleborough is 24,000.
I can't believe 24,000. That's so small.
Even if I added them together, I'm still not even an eighth of your city.
Yeah, you're not even at 100,000.
And you know what's crazy to me? Excuse me. When I went to college, I was like, oh yeah, I'm from a small town. And then I had 3 friends who were like, oh really? How many people are in your graduating class? And I said 250. And Tasha was like, I had 10 in mine. And then my 2 other friends who were grew up together, they were like, yeah, we had 14. And I was like, oh, so you're from legit, there are 50 people in your town. Got it. Okay, I'm not from
we had
town.
400 people in our graduating class.
And the only reason I had 250 in mine is because I went to a tech school, so we pulled from 5 different cities.
Yeah, El Paso's an international city though, compared to Taunton and Middleborough.
But anyway, things about us. So I only ever lived in apartments growing up. That was just a normal thing.
I only ever lived in homes.
Both of my parents worked my entire life up until my mom got cancer.
Yeah.
But both of yours didn't always work.
Yeah. So my mom and dad did dog training, and my dad was in the police department. And then at one point, my mom was a full-time student. So she didn't work, my dad worked. And then when they got divorced, she finished school, and then she started working. So then I was with one working parent. But yeah, for a while, my mom was just a full-time student.
What did religion look like in your family?
Yeah.
And also where you grew up?
So my dad's Catholic, but we didn't really experience that a lot. I just know he's Catholic, but it never was in the family. My mom's atheist, but my friends and my community were all Christian or Catholic, really big. Everyone went to church. Everyone did the
communion
baptism and communion and confirmation, and you went to those things. Religion is a big part of Mexican culture and Texas and El Paso. Almost I knew very few atheist people. There's a lot of Catholics and Christians.
And a lot of your friends openly talked about religion,
right?
And
they went to church on Sunday, or they went with their families, or their
and
families.
They went to
religious.
Youth group and stuff.
A lot of people wore crosses or not rosaries, but the little bracelets with the saints on it and stuff. They were very open about it. It was a normal part of life, I guess.
And then my family, I actually just recently learned last year that my dad is an atheist. Didn't know that. I thought he was religious, but he's not. Anyway. In my family, we didn't talk about religion. We didn't go to church. My sister and I were not baptized, which for the outer parts of my family was very weird because pretty much all of my cousins were baptized and did the communion and stuff. It was just the 2 of us who weren't. But it also wasn't I didn't have any family that I know of that goes to church on Sundays, that goes to church on Christmas. As far as I know, that's not a thing I know of.
That's true. And I had friends who couldn't celebrate Halloween.
That's wild.
Yeah, and then there were people who did Easter was really big. We did Lent at school. They served fish on Fridays.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
We had Ash Wednesday. The religion kind of bled into our public school in a way, just because of how many people were celebrating.
And I know there were quite a few at least Christian families, because we did have a CCD building where you was Sunday school.
What is that called again? Or what does it stand for?
It's I believe what you do in order to have your confirmation and stuff.
Okay.
I just know I used to want to go because my friends went. But even when I grew up, my friends never talked about religion. Families didn't talk about it. Like I said, from what I know, I didn't know anyone who went to church every Sunday or even on holidays. whether they did or not is
Yeah.
beyond me.
No, a lot of my friends.
It just wasn't. We didn't talk about it.
A lot of my friends went to midnight mass for Christmas and stuff like that.
When you were a kid, what did you do, like, activity-wise? Because that's very different for the two of us.
So, I know we talked about it a little bit. I think part of it was the money situation when I was growing up, but we didn't do, like, youth sports. We didn't do scouts. We didn't do, there's something below scouts, like, brownies and stuff. Like, we did do karate for a little bit, and then that stopped. And then it was pretty much just, like, I hung out with my friends at their house, or we played video games. Like, we went outside a lot. But if we weren't outside, like, doing, like, imaginary bullshit with our friends, we were inside playing video games.
And then, like, what about your friends? Did any of them do, like, stuff
Not
like
really. Off the top of my head, I don't remember a lot of my friends doing, like, sports. It's mostly they go to Mexico to see their family, or they would go to church, or, like, we would, it was just, like, domestic, like, grocery shopping and, like, stuff like that. We would hang out, but they didn't really, my friends only did sports at school. Like, if, during the school day they did sports, and that was it. There was nothing after school.
So, like, family-wise, going to the library was really big, going to the park was really big, and then in the summer we had a town pool, so, like, that was, like, the place to be. Like, everyone and their mom was at the town pool because it's this giant, like, Olympic-sized swimming pool. Why wouldn't you go? And you pay, like, 50 cents.
Yeah.
Did you guys have anything like that?
I don't know if we had a pool. I don't remember having a pool, unless you live in an apartment complex. To me, in El Paso, the only place you can find a pool is if someone was rich and had a pool, or their apartment complex with a pool.
Or a hotel.
Yeah, and then the park, we kind of went to a park, but it wasn't like a group, it was just like onesie-twosies. And then there was the library, we never went to the library. I don't even know where the libraries are in El Paso. Like, no one ever was like, let's go to the library. Like, that was just not a thing.
And then you had mentioned, like, people didn't really do sports outside of school.
Yeah, it was, like, in school.
In Middleborough, like, town sports
you guys have, like,
are
Pop
huge.
Warner stuff, right?
Yeah, like, we have, like, the Middleborough Cobras, go look them up. I don't know what they're called. They're, like
little
I want to say, like, no. The Middleborough Cobras, I want to say, are, like, a semi-professional football.
Well, I know they're football, but yeah, I guess Pee-wee football, I don't know.
No, like, they're, like, adults.
Oh, yeah,
and then,
yeah.
I mean, we do have, like, Pee-wees, and I think midgets, sorry for the term, is technically one of the, like, leagues or whatever.
I forgot that you guys have adults that play sports.
Yeah, like, basically from, like, 5 years old to, like, adult, you can technically play for the town.
Yeah.
You could cheerlead for the town. We have, like, a Middleborough Little League.
Yeah, we don't.
I think we have softball. We probably have basketball. Like, town sports were, like, big in Middleborough.
So, like, as a kid, if you were gonna play sports outside of school, it was soccer or football. Like, you didn't play baseball. Like, that just wasn't a thing. I mean, for cheerleading, I knew one girl who did cheerleading for Pop Warner, and I think she didn't grow up in El Paso. She came to El Paso from, like, I think California.
Mm-hmm.
But she did, like, she went to, like, state and stuff, like, with her, like, Pop Warner people. But, like, that was one kid out of, like, everyone I knew that did cheerleading.
Did you guys have, like, dance centers?
Not that I know of.
Because there was one in the middle of town. It's called Rachel Park.
Yeah.
That was huge the entire time I was growing up. Like, if you wanted to learn how to dance, you went to Rachel Park.
Like, I guess disclaimer too, like, I'm sure there are a lot of resources in El Paso for all these things, but growing up, no one ever talked about them and no one ever did them. So I'm sure someone's be like, well, there's a pool or a dance studio, whatever.
Or, like, we go to the library all the time.
Right, like, for me and my, like, group of peers, that was never a thing that happened.
So, like, elementary school, your elementary school experience was very different from mine.
Yeah.
Because you grew up so close to the border.
Yeah.
That a lot of, like, the people in your school did ESL.
Yeah. English,
or
like,
were
English,
ESL, I guess.
So, like, my whole elementary path was split between, like, native English speakers and non. Like, and then we kind of merged in middle school, and that's how I met, like, a couple of my really close friends. But we didn't really, like, I didn't know we were in the same elementary school from kindergarten to 6th grade, because it was, like, there was one hallway for each grade, and Spanish was on the right and English was on the left. And, like, at lunch we would see, like, they would play soccer and we'd play football, like, we play basketball and they play football, like, we would swap sports around. But yeah, it was very much like, these are the group of Spanish-speaking kids, and these are the group of English-speaking kids. And then my school had free lunch and breakfast. Like, for everyone all the time. From elementary school all the way through high school.
And ours was, like, free or reduced if you qualified.
Yeah, everyone in our district qualified.
Yeah, it was not like a... Well, I mean, technically not all of you would have qualified. Because, like, you wouldn't have qualified.
I think the later years of my school I wouldn't have.
Yeah, but it was just... Like the percentage of you was over probably, like, 70%.
And not all schools in El Paso were that way.
Yeah.
Like, I think there were other high schools where they had to pay for the lunch. I could be wrong. But
yeah, I remember every day in middle school, I don't remember what high school was, but it was $2 for lunch.
Yeah.
And then I remember they started a system where, like, you had to have tickets. So Dad would send me for, like, he would add up the days in the month, and I'd have to like bring it in and get my tickets. That was annoying. Anyway, when did you first learn about sex ed?
So we learned about like
What you, I guess.
Yeah. So
what we consider sex
right.
ed and learning about sex ed is very different.
So Texas is abstinence only. So with that out there, your bread is done. Let me make her stop.
This is fun.
Alexa, stop.
My bread dough is in the refrigerator.
So for sex ed for us, it was abstinence only. So I learned about like sexual organs, I guess, and I want to say 7th grade with my PE coach.
And just for reference,
yeah,
I learned about sexual organs in 5th grade.
Yeah, no, that was not. And you had to get a permission slip to learn about in 7th grade.
I think we did technically have to have a permission slip, and it was like an auditorium thing. Like all the girls went in on like a Tuesday, and then all the boys went in on a Thursday, and it was so that like you were comfortable and you got like a cute little bag. Actually, I think we went in at the same time. That's what it was. But like the girls sat on like the left, the boys sat on the right, and I think it was so that we weren't like tee hee hee.
Yeah.
And then when you left, everyone got a bag. Like we got like I think there was like a pad and like a tampon and like girls deodorant. It was like a.
What's crazy?
It's cute.
We almost never talked about periods.
That's wild.
Like I can't remember a time
we
in
all learned
school
about it.
when we talked about like no one in school taught me about pads and tampons. Like that was up to my parents to teach me that.
Yeah.
And then in 8th grade we had health class, and that. So even with my PE coach, I really don't remember how much we learned besides like don't have sex. But 8th grade was like these are ovaries, like this is your uterus and like testicles and shit. But then it was like STD education, and then it was like don't have sex. Like, we never learned about condoms. We never learned about birth control. We never learned about pads or tampons. Like sex ed is like your physical organs, and then do not have sex. And if you do, STDs are bad.
So now for reference, I learned about sex in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And then I learned about like STDs and STIs in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And then 8th grade I think was just like going over all of that again.
Yeah.
Along with, I do specifically remember learning about like smoking and why you shouldn't smoke and like lung cancer and like there was a sponge. It was all like.
Yeah, we had a lot of like briefings and presentations in high school about like not having sex before marriage. Like you always laugh when I say no ringy, no dingy. Like that was a legit method of teachers. Like no ringy, no dingy. Like you cannot have sex until you're married. And like we had to sign a little card that said like I will abstain from drugs and sex, and like it was a red card. You're supposed to put in your wallet. And, like I got that in elementary school, like 5th or 6th grade, and you're supposed to keep it with you like until you get married, I guess.
Yeah, no, that wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
Ours was very much like you're going to have sex. When that happens, do this so this doesn't happen.
And so we bring up like one of my best friends growing up. She was her grandparents lived next to me. She was like my neighbor for most of the time. She got pregnant when she was 14, and then she had a second kid later. I think when she was in high school, because she was, maybe not when she was in high school, but it was soon after high school. Because I remember when we were in 10th grade, she was talking about her son that she had when we were in 8th grade. But yeah, she was pregnant at 14, and like we had a daycare at my sister's high school. Like kids got pregnant. It wasn't like no one was getting pregnant. It's just.
We didn't have a.
We had a daycare. I remember Casey's. I don't think the new high school they didn't put a playground or a daycare in there, but Casey's old high school there was a daycare center.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's just funny. The no ringing, no thing. And then in high school, like when you had health class, you obviously still weren't learning actual like sexual education. Yeah. But there was always this one topic that you asked if I learned about it.
Like toxic relationships?
Yeah, we didn't learn about toxic relationships.
So like my senior year, we had a presentation, like a presenter come and teach us, like it was like a scenario based, like a skit, and this girl starts dating this guy, and then like he demonstrates all the signs of toxic relationship, and like he isolates her, he degrades her, he tells her what to wear, who to talk to, and like she like then that all plays out. But I remember me and my friend, I think it was Carmen, we were just like, this is cool. Like why didn't we have this like freshman year? Because people were dating. I was dating freshman year. Like people were dating.
Way before this.
My friend got pregnant in 8th grade. Like, people were dating way before senior year, but I do think it's cool that they at least touched on it.
Yeah, we didn't learn about that. We did learn about sexuality.
We didn't learn about that.
Yeah, no. We learned about eating disorders. We learned about depression. We learned about, like, excessive drinking, smoking, drugs. Like, that was kind of what my, like, 9th and 10th grade health education looked like.
It's funny, because
I didn't take health after 10th grade.
So we had health in 10th grade a semester long. But we didn't talk about excessive drinking. We only talked about, like, you shouldn't drink because you're not 21.
Yeah.
You shouldn't smoke because it's dangerous / you're not 18. But I wish we talked about, like, depression or anxiety or, like, eating disorders.
Yeah.
Because we never talked about that.
I'm curious to know, because obviously I graduated almost 12 years ago now. I'm curious to know, like,
Yeah.
how the curriculum has changed, and if they do talk about like toxic relationships, we didn't learn about anxiety. I didn't learn about anxiety until I was diagnosed with it at 18.
I didn't know anxiety was a thing until I met you. I didn't know anxiety was a thing.
Which is when I was diagnosed with it, so props to you. School wise, you didn't have tech schools in.
We had one that I knew was a magnet school, it was medical school, but like nobody went to that. We had one girl who went to that school, and she was very heartbroken because no one else was going with her. But like everyone just went from middle school to high school. Like that was it. That was the path that you took.
And then where I grew up, so like I moved right before 9th grade to Taunton, and my dad gave me the option. He said, you can either apply to BP, which is a technical school, go where your sister went, which was an agriculture school, or go to the Catholic school, which was all girls, and those are your options because you're not going to like the public schools in Taunton. He just didn't like them. So I applied to BP, got accepted, went to the tech school. Greatest decision of my life. I highly recommend, if you have an option to not have to go to public school, you should look at them.
Yeah.
Because it was the best experience I've ever had, like growing up school-wise. So I just think it's interesting that like you didn't really have that because like, so not only was there BP, but there was one like a couple towns over. There was another one. My sister went to an Aggie school.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah, agriculture school.
There were so many different like options for us.
I guess the only other option I can think of was New Mexico State Military Institute, NIMI, New Mexico Military.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
That was the second school that I'd heard of. But we had a kid who came from NIMI to our high school.
Okay.
But yeah, NIMI and the magnet school were like the only two.
In Texas in general, football's a huge thing.
Yeah, high school Friday Night Lights, like that's Texas high school football. Is it the Gridlock? There's a news channel for high school football. So it's like that's ESPN, funny. But it's like highlight clips from high school teams and like these are the people we're following, like these are their stats. Like it's huge for us. Like everyone goes to every game. Like you're either part of the band, the flag twirlers, the football team, ROTC, like you're doing concession stand sales or you're just there watching the game.
I feel like I can't really like speak about Massachusetts and like football because I went to a tech school. They weren't very good.
Yeah.
And I just genuinely didn't care about football.
Yeah.
So it could have been bigger for like the local high schools. I don't know.
I don't think it would have been bigger than Texas.
No.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was a big deal.
There was some stadium in Texas that opened like in Houston or something.
Wasn't it like the most expensive?
It was like $2 million for a high school stadium.
That's wild. Did you guys have state testing?
Yes, we had the Texas Assessment of Knowledge and Skills, or TAKS test, and we switched to the STAR test. It started like in 4th grade, and then your last year was junior year. If you passed everything junior year, you didn't have anything for senior year.
We took the MCAS. They still take the MCAS. But it's different. If you pass in 10th grade, you don't have to take it again.
Yeah, so we did one more year than you guys did.
Which is nice, because it technically gives you 3 options.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I think is interesting about your high school is you were required to apply to a college, at least one, in order to graduate.
Yeah,
I didn't have to do that.
We had 4 college or high school graduation requirements. What was weird too is I was taking college courses while at high school, but I was still required to apply to a college. Like I told them, I said I'm joining the Air Force. I'm not going to college. And they're like, well, you can't graduate unless you apply. Like you don't have to go or be accepted.
You literally just had to apply to like.
I just had to apply to a school. Didn't matter where.
So what if you didn't get accepted? Did that not matter?
Nope, you just had to apply.
That's wild. Will you explain what mums are, and then we'll talk about like.
It's kind of like a course. Well, it's not really a corsage. So a mom is like, it's like if you
like a wearable corsage.
If you took a corsage and then multiply it by like 10, like size
and you put it around your neck.
It's like a fabric, and like our ag teachers would make them and you'd sell them, and you can get different in size. But like obviously like the bigger means you care more about that person. But like you can personalize it, and you can say like I want you to get this teddy bear and glue it onto that mom, and like I want these ribbons, little football deke, and you do it for homecoming week. And you're supposed to give it to your like significant other. And the guys would have like, I think either around their wrist or smaller, or maybe I don't remember what guys did. But the girls generally got mums, and they wear around their neck. I mean, you just wear them through the school day, and they have bells and whistles, and like you just walk around school with these gigantic, and like I said, bigger the better, right? It's like just these giant mum things on. And I sent one to Kristen because I'm like, she's
you sent me one junior and senior year.
I'm like, I have a girlfriend. It's homecoming. I will send you a mum.
And mind you, when she told me like I'm gonna get you a mum, I was like. Okay.
And it has like the year on it, like they glue like
wild.
all these things.
And I still have a piece of one of them.
There's like little mom and pop shops that they just do homecoming.
It's super cute though.
And you can personalize the crap out of it.
It's a very fun like tradition. I think it doesn't it doesn't hurt anybody. Like it is a very like wholesome.
It's cute.
Homecoming tradition.
Yeah.
I think it's adorable. So just because we thought this was really interesting, we got some demographics. So we looked up like how many vets were in like Middleborough, Taunton, El Paso. We looked up like how many like white people, African Americans,
Mexicans.
Hispanic, not Mexican,
I
Hispanic.
thought it said Mexican, was it?
No, it's Hispanic.
Oh, okay.
And like how many are like foreign born that live there and stuff.
This is all from the 2010 census.
Yes. So for Middleborough, 92% of the population is white, 1.8% is African American, 2.5% is Hispanic. Taunton is 78% white, 8.6% African American, 7.9% Hispanic. El Paso is 11.6% white, 3.9% African American, and 83% Hispanic. And no one ever like believes Megan when she's like, I was one of like 4 white kids
Yeah.
in my high school class.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, but it makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah, there was, at our peak was probably like 8 white kids.
I don't, and this isn't to say that this is how like every town in Massachusetts is or how every town in like Texas is. This is literally just where we grew up. So for foreign born in Middleborough, there were only 3.2%. Taunton had 12.6%. And El Paso had 24.8%.
I'd say it's like a quarter of it.
Mm-hmm.
And back to the race thing too. Like I think we had one girl in my school that was African American, and I never really like met or interacted with someone until I joined the military. It was all Mexican kids or like my few white friends. Like I didn't have any. I had maybe one Asian friend in theater class, and I knew of one African American chick, and that was it.
We did also look at how, like, the percentage of other languages spoken in the home.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So in Middleborough it was 4.3%. Taunton was 20.6%, which is pretty impressive.
I'm curious what the other language was.
It's Portuguese. 100%
okay,
it's Portuguese.
Okay. I kind of thought it would be Portuguese, but I wasn't sure.
And then El Paso is 71.3%, which makes sense.
Yeah, that 3/4 kind of statistic makes sense because most of my friends spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
Either as their first language or as a second language.
So we just wanted to explain those demographics because it makes sense why certain things are like
so different.
Yeah. And then will you explain why white girl is like not offensive? Like it's a very normal thing.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, like I used to ride the public like school bus to school, and it was always the bus drivers. They would call me Wetta or the lunch ladies. So like Wetta is white girl. But, like, growing up, like, that was normal. Like, oh, like, what, like, where's your address? Or, like, oh, is this your stop? Like, I don't know, I'd be like, yeah or no. Like, I would respond to that. It wasn't until I literally, like, left El Paso, like, joined them, that I was like, isn't that racist kind of? Like, I don't know. I can't just walk up to be like, hey, black kid, like, is this your food? Like, you know, you can't just call people that. But, like, I didn't mind it. I still don't for me. Like, if I was if we went to El Paso and I was at a Walmart, and so I was like, hey, what, like, whatever, I'd be like, cool, here, like.
I think it's more funny than anything, personally.
But I had this realization that like, oh shit, like, you can't really do that. And then another thing too is when I was in like kindergarten, I remember my friend told me I wasn't Mexican. She was the first person who told me I was white, and I never
like what?
Like I don't know, like I guess I just assumed that like everyone around was Mexican, so like I'm obviously Mexican. Like I remember that moment.
It messed you up.
Yeah, she was like, no, like you're not like you're not Mexican, like you're not like us, and I was like, oh shit, I'm white. Like that was like a weird I don't know, that was a weird moment.
Other differences. So like LGBT protections, Massachusetts is very much like
the first to legalize gay marriage.
Yeah, we're big on protecting people. So El Paso's a blue city, so they tend to be more like welcoming and nice, and like I never feel like we're being stared at when we're there. Like I feel more welcomed in El Paso than I do in Colorado Springs.
Or even like Taunton, like your smaller towns.
Yeah.
Even though Massachusetts is blue, isn't Taunton red?
Taunton, I think, and Middleborough are technically both red.
And like I'm in a red state of Texas, but I'm in a blue city.
Yeah.
So that is weird.
Wild.
Yeah.
You're right though. I do feel much more comfortable in El Paso. No one stares at us in El Paso.
Yeah.
Many people stare at us in Taunton. Many. But yeah, Massachusetts was the first to legalize gay marriage. And then, so in Texas, you can be fired if you're LGBT. Not in Massachusetts, that's a no-no. Same thing for like public accommodations or like housing. Texas doesn't have protections, Massachusetts does. Adoption is legal in both. But what I think is interesting when it comes to like trans protections. So in Massachusetts, you can change your legal gender even without like sex reassignment surgery.
You can just change it when you want.
Yes. Texas, you have to have the surgery, which is just so weird to me.
It is kind of weird. I don't know why it matters so much that your gender marker would change.
Right,
like that doesn't change any of the benefits you get. That doesn't change like the housing that you get. Like,
right. What I don't understand is like, so you won't let me have like health care for all, and my health insurance won't pay for
right,
it.
right.
So now you want me to pay for like a what is essentially like a $20,000 to $30,000 surgery.
I'm curious too. Is that top and bottom surgery? Is
I
that
don't know.
just top?
I don't know.
Do you have to get your general?
Does it matter?
Yeah, I don't know.
Conversion therapy, Texas doesn't have it banned, and Massachusetts does.
Yeah.
I know our friend Dom was kind of like super pumped because like Virginia was the first state in the South, but then he was like really let down that like
there are still states that haven't
they were the
banned it.
first state in the South.
Yeah.
Death penalty.
Yeah.
Texas does have the death penalty.
We love it. We stand a good death penalty.
Massachusetts does not. They haven't since '84.
It's so
it's
funny.
older than my sister.
When we talk about it, like our friends from Massachusetts always forget that like I'm from Texas. Like we're very different, like
Yeah.
guns and death penalty and just like
Wildly
social political things, super
Yeah.
different.
So just for shits and giggles, when we did this like research, it was
Last week.
by the time you're seeing this, it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Texas had already
Killed 2 people.
Yeah. in 2020.
It was like I think it was still February or just March. It just started,
Yeah, it's
and they
wild.
already executed 2 people.
So wild. Guns. Like, all right. So here we go. So I grew up in Massachusetts, very blue,
very liberal.
Obviously, like I know people have guns because like they go hunting or like I know you can have like open carry and you can open carry like pistols and shit. I have never been to a Walmart or a store that isn't specifically a gun store where you see guns until I went to El Paso and we went to Walmart and I was like, why are there guns in this Walmart?
And I was
So
like,
that's
your
a thing.
Walmart doesn't have guns? All of our Walmarts have guns. It's in the back. It's by the hunting sporting section.
Didn't Walmart stop selling, or did they only stop selling some guns?
They stopped selling certain ammunition.
Okay.
Like, it depends. Like, because Colorado Springs, they had the whole gun rack thing
Yeah.
at Walmart, too.
I'm curious if,
I think after the El Paso shooting, they changed the ammo, maybe?
I was curious if, like, something in El Paso Walmarts had changed.
They might
after
have.
that.
I didn't look.
But either way, it
Yeah.
was mind-blowing to me. It
Yeah.
freaked me out. And then we saw many people open carrying guns.
In Colorado Springs, there was a lot.
So, yeah, and they were carrying, like,
Colorado Springs, I
rifles.
think, was worse. Because we would go to Texas Roadhouse, and some fucker would have a pistol, and I'm like...
or, like, they would have, like, the big gun, like, on their back, and
Yeah.
I would instantly be so uncomfortable.
We went shooting in Texas. We brought you
Yeah.
with my dad.
That felt very safe.
To take her shooting. We were out just out in the desert, and, like, there's people
That
walking
was kind of
by.
weird.
Yeah, it's...
And
Like,
very uncomfortable because there
Yeah.
were people right there.
because, like, a lot of friends in my high school, we'd go out to the wall, which is, like, this giant wall of dirt in the desert, and people would go out and shoot, and, like, you just bring your bottles and cans, and you just go shoot out in the desert. But, like, you can't do that in Massachusetts. I mean, maybe you can, but there might not be enough room to do it.
Crazy. The other interesting things about like guns and where we live. So, like I said, in Mass, you can open carry pistols. You cannot open carry like long guns. In Texas, you can carry whatever, and you don't need a permit to get a gun
And no
in
background
Texas.
check.
Oh yeah, in Massachusetts, you need a permit and you have to get a background check, even if it's like a private seller.
Yep.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't
I
get
think
it.
a lot of young adults in El Paso have a gun. But even, we looked up gun rates too, didn't we? Like ownership? Wasn't it like a third in Texas or something?
Yeah,
I don't know if you wrote it down.
I don't have it written down.
We looked over like how many people are gun owners in Massachusetts and Texas, and like Hawaii had a really high gun ownership rate and stuff. Like it was pretty wild. Like I own one gun that I got from my dad, but my dad owns like probably 5.
Many.
Like I know he owns like a assault rifle.
He has a
thing.
shotgun.
He has a shotgun. He has a hunting rifle. He might have 1 or 2 shotguns, but he has a gun case. Like he has a gun locker in
Yeah,
his house.
there's one gun in
Yeah.
this household.
Yeah.
It's plenty.
And my dad gave it to me. Like
Yes.
I've never bought or like purchased a gun.
And you shot it never.
Yeah, since he gave it to me, I haven't shot it. But a lot of my coworkers do go shooting, so I might go eventually. But
So that's the thing, like, I don't have an issue with people, like, shooting. Like, I had a great time, like, shooting with, like, you and your dad. It's the whole, like, you don't need to have a permit or, like,
background check. Yeah.
that I get very wary, and it is very weird to me. But that's a topic for another time. So, yeah, that's Massachusetts versus Texas. I'm sure we're both pretty happy with where we grew up and how we grew up. I think if you had grown up in any other part of Texas, it would be very different.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that you grew up in El Paso.
I'm probably a lot more like internalized homophobia.
Probably.
Probably.
But yeah, so let us know where you're from, if anything like differs from like what we said, like for when you grew up, where you grew up, if you're from Massachusetts or El Paso or another part of Texas, just let us know your thoughts.
How was sex ed? Do you own a gun?
Yeah, tell us all the things.
Do you speak another language?
Housekeeping things, if you haven't seen, we had a Saturday episode come out. Make sure you check that. We talked about who's the asshole. Last week's episode, we talked about Wife Wednesday, so you should see what that is and, you know, how fun Wife Wednesday is. And then look forward to this Saturday where we probably talk about who's the asshole again. Otherwise, we hope you have a good day.
Like, subscribe, comment.
Oh, yeah, do the YouTube things.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.